folks. Sometimes these things are actually my idea. You know that, right? I got a couple opening statements, if you guys don't mind. Bet you're wondering why I called you all here. No, hey, thanks for coming. Thank you for. I thought it was really cool just going to media days. That the University of Nebraska is the most represented team there from its media corps. So thank you guys who came, or if you weren't able to come, thank you for everything you do for us the entire year. Obviously excited to get started. A couple updates. Obviously it's a 120-man roster for camp. As people get hurt, you still have the ability to rotate people in. So that's not a 120-man roster limit. We still have the whole team, but 120-man roster to start camp. Injuries to start camp, okay? Tristan Alvano is limited, so he'll be out at the start of camp. Bly Hill, Barrett Liebentritt, Maurice Mazuka, Brody Tagaloa, and Michael Booker. So those guys will not be in that 120, and they will wait until they're healthy, and then if someone else gets hurt, they'll then replace that, as well as some of the other guys we've had on our team who've worked their tails off. Just, we have to do a lot of things by number, so a lot of deserving guys aren't able to be in the 120, but they will be, and they'll all be there for the start of when school starts. We're moving in the dorms today, so I'm very fired up to be with these guys as we start this training camp. What I will say is just I hope that people have the opportunity to come on Saturday night and come to practice. I certainly understand that being charged to come to a practice, spending $25 is different, and it's new. I think the one thing we've tried to do is not charge for anything that used to be free, right? We're not charging for fan days. We're not doing that. And I think if you look at our track record between camps and clinics and all these things, we've tried to be as available, and we'll continue to do that. But moving forward in this new model, we have to find ways, to raise revenue and to support 1890. They've gone above and beyond, and this is a great way to do that and support our roster, support our student athletes. And just so everybody knows, every player's parent, Julie is planning on coming. My wife Julie's coming Saturday night. She's paying $25. It's a fundraiser. And so if you can't come, we certainly understand. It will be a good practice. I want people to see the way that we practice, and at the end, we'll have some fun. We'll make it a fun, interactive, well, maybe not interactive, but a fun deal. So with that, I'll answer your guys' questions.
Alvano, what is the?
Yeah, he had a groin that's just been. It's just trending to be in a good way, but a groin that's been bothering him, and had a quick surgery, sort of a 2-week recovery time, and so he's recovered, but he's just not full go. So he'll be working with the training staff and Drew Hamblin and Chris Peduzzi, and shouldn't be too long.
You guys brought in the Iowa Western guy. Will he kind of have an opportunity now in camp or at the kicker position? Who will be your kicker? I guess with him out, who do you?
From a hole. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Between Hull, we have Otto Manelli in camp, so we have Nico in camp, we have Hull in camp. Alvano, once he's healthy, he'll battle for that job. So, I think the thing that we realized, or Ed did a great job of, is the way the season's going to go. A lot of games are going to come down to the kicking game, right? So, with Tristan, we know what we have in Tristan. So better not to rush it, get him healthy. Don't push it. Nico was a high priority player for us in the recruiting process. And then Holes, obviously, we had a chance to coach his older brother, Jacob, who's a fantastic young man, and John has a ton of talent, big leg. Again, taking care of the summer camp opportunities. We were able to have him come in. So he was a scholarship player at another place, and we got him. So they'll all compete for it, and we'll see what happens.
Is Brody related to last year?
He's sort of released. He's actually meeting. I think he met yesterday or today with the doctor to see if he's fully released. But there's still some strength inadequacies. So again, we're just kind of banking on the long run. The great thing about the rule, the way it works, is if you are injured, you can still be here. You can still get treatment, rehab meals, all those things. So I wouldn't suspect that Brody would be too long.
What are the emotions for you and your entire team as you guys get ready to embark on this 4.5-week grind leading up to the season opener?
Yeah, I think probably for the guys it's a sense of relief. I think they've been highly anticipating it. I think this was a really, really hard summer. I asked Corey, I said, I don't care, just give me a tough team. That's all I care about. I don't care about anything else. And to the point that when I'm in the office and they're working out, I went out one time. I wanted, I never went out to watch them. I wanted them to have this time with themselves. So I think probably getting to football, getting out of, boot camp and getting to football is probably exciting for them, but also relief because I know a lot of these guys, the guys that came back, they came back because they want to get to the season. Now what we have to do now is not start looking ahead to the games. We've got to just dominate every single day. And this is one of my favorite times of the year. My favorite time of the year is probably like mat drill season, and I love this time of year. Obviously I love the games, don't get me wrong, but I just, watching these guys grow, develop, overcome adversity, it's fun.
The Elite List series that you put out this summer every week, what's been the standard for making that, and maybe what have you seen from some guys individually or trends this summer?
Yeah, that has nothing to do with me. We started that way back at Temple. That's all based upon the performance staff. But they do factor in, behavior. They do factor in academics. They factor all those things into the process. Only thing I ever do with Corey is I'm always pushing it to be less and less and less. To me, everyone on our team's working hard. Everyone on our team, if they did this summer, they are elite. So what you're talking about is the top 10% of the top 10%. It's not a participation trophy. And there's some guys. There's some guys, walk-on guys. Like I was a walk-on, so I feel very comfortable saying walk-on guys like Noah Bustard and Grant Buda, who propelled themselves into camp by making the elite list multiple times. So you'll see scholarship players that aren't in camp, non-injury related. You'll see walk-ons that are in camp. This is a new day and age in football. We've always done it this way. You get what you deserve. And that doesn't mean that guys don't deserve. It's just other guys outperform them maybe. So it could be your body weight. It can be your hydration every day. I mean, they take all this into account. Corey and the rest of the performance staff meet. They put the list out. I see it when it goes on Twitter. I literally won't even – they used to send it to me. I don't even want to look at it because I don't want to affect it. I want them to make the decision based upon what they see. And the great thing is when you see guys that maybe weren't elite in the winter becoming more elite, it's pretty cool.
I think Harvard is a guy who's been on that list. What have you seen from him just as a guy who's put his head down and gone to work there's fanfare about other people, but he just handles his business?
Yeah, Heinrich's, we have our black jerseys in the offseason. He's black jersey every single day. He's, first of all, he's a Madden build-a player. I guess they'll have college football build-a player. Like he's 6'4", 225 pounds, one of the fastest guys on the team, most explosive, loves to work out. My challenge to Heinrich has been the elite list is based upon everything performance related. For you, it's about learning the offense at not at like a level 2 mastery, not even at level 3. Level 4 where you're unconsciously able to perform without having to think. And, your mechanics, your accuracy. And so I'm anxious to see Heinrich these next weeks. For me, and I said it at Media Day a couple times, I don't know if people get it, like they've worked so hard, and greatness usually happens outside of the time they're with us. With Corey and them, but not with us. I'm anxious to see what the growth that Heinrich's made because I'm sure he's made a ton of it. He's a huge part of this team, and he's going to have great days ahead. So, look forward to seeing him.
Tony White had an incredible first year as a coordinator, right? And the defense got a lot better. How do you challenge him in year 2 to get even better as a coordinator and that defense to improve on really good numbers from last year?
Well, that's a great question. I think the thing for me is looking at the things that maybe we didn't do well. I think as the way you change something is you look at what you don't do well, not what you do well. Now, when I come into things like this, I might talk more about what we do well. But with the team, I'm always talking about, hey, we have to eliminate these things. And for me, the defense, we have to take the ball away 20 times this year. We have to take the ball away 20. And I'm not talking about like 5 in one game that against an inferior opponent maybe. I'm saying you got to take the ball away. We only won the turnover battle twice last year. And we throw that all on the offense. But we took the ball away 14 times. And I think 1 or 2 of those were on special teams. So I want to see us take the ball away on defense. And I want to see us eliminate the big plays. And you have to understand that, hey, when you're an attacking man-to-man style defense, people are going to do different things to you. So sometimes, like, if you have a defensive staff that's arrogant, they'll say, like, well, they just double moved us. They always have to double move us. Well, you know what? That double pass Michigan State threw that, cost us the game. So eliminating the big plays, but most importantly, taking the ball away. And again, you recreate yourself every year. No statistics from last year carry over to this year. Like I think everyone's kind of assuming, like, well, they were a top 15 defense. They'll be a top 15 defense. You buy the magazines, they say that. I mean, first of all, we should be chasing number one. We want to be the number one defense. And but Tony, to his credit, what people I don't know if they know about Tony is he has such humble confidence. Like he's got an edge to him and a swagger to him, yet he's very humble. And I thought Tony did an amazing job. When Coop resigned in that interim, stand kind of through the interview process, through hiring John, and then the work he's had to do. I mean, he had to, he's on vacation. He has to leave his family, fly back on his own dime. Hey, get John set up, start working. He's done a great job with that, and that'll be a challenge. But it'll be a good challenge because of all the things that John brings.
Any more, but I guess I'm asking you to expand on some of what you just said. Is there anything about the makeup of that defense that would lead you to believe that they won't rest on their laurels? And I guess I'm talking more about players.
No, none. I think if anything, from everything that I've heard and kind of felt and seen, I think they're ready to take a step. See, great defense comes from, because you want to play a lot of guys on defense. Great defense comes from the accountability and standards that these guys hold for each other. So in the spring, when I would take out the Nashes and the Ties and the Keeses and those guys, I think a lot of people think it's a break. What I'm trying to do is get them to feel what it feels like to be a coach. And to watch, like you call a defense, right? And then they all play this college football game now, which is a great game, right? And you call a blitz and there's this line going here, and there's this line going here, and there's this line going here. And when you call that and the line going here doesn't go here, they would send their game back. But as a defensive coordinator, sometimes Tony calls a guy to blitz and he doesn't know to blitz. And so when those guys were coaching, they started, and they get a little edge about them. Like, hey, blitz. We have to assume positive intent and that nothing's personal and that we're just trying to get the football right. And so what I'm saying, it's a very long-winded answer, I apologize. What that's saying is this. All of a sudden now, Buford and those guys, Giff, Tommy Hill, they want to win. And last year they would say, we don't want to. We want the defense to play well. We don't want to be the reason why we lose. I want the defense to be the reason why we win. That in their mind. Like, start scoring touchdowns on defense. If you're that good, pick the ball off and run it back. Change games like they did against Northwestern when they blocked the field goal and ran it back. So they're starting to get on each other. They're starting to hold each other way, way more accountable. The sensitivity is kind of going away. And that's what great defenses are like. There's such a high standard. And oh, by the way, I think the offense is catching up too, so they don't have to win it, but they can have that mentality, we're going to win it on defense.
Coach, when it comes to Dylan Rhule, when it comes to fall camp, how tough is it for you as a coaching staff to get him ready for what he's going to see in the season, yet also build his confidence considering he's such a young player?
I think anytime you play any young player, you want to go at their pace. Unfortunately, if you want to play quarterback as a freshman, the schedule's the schedule. The standard's the standard. 8:31 comes around pretty quickly, and you better be ready. So, I think a lot of that, again, we're going to have to see where he is. We're going to see where everyone is on the team based upon the work they put in the summer. But our job is not to get anybody ready to play. Our job is to give them opportunities. They have to get themselves ready to play. Like, if it means you stay up for 2 extra hours at night and study more film, if it means it takes what it takes. Because when 8:31 comes around, we have to be ready to play at a high level. So, the thing I like about really all the freshmen that I think are competing to play is they kind of understand the standard. They kind of understand, like, hey, this is what we do, and we'll have a really competitive camp. I like to have the most competitive camp I've ever had, and we'll see who's standing at the end.
Hey, Matt, how much of a difference will that communication in helmet thing help you and maybe help a young quarterback? And vice versa, how do you integrate that during camp, both offensive and defense?
Yeah, it's probably not as much of a help on defense. I mean, the reality is, in tempo offenses in college, it's probably not as much of a help as it is in the NFL. We'll use it, but Tony and them aren't super. It's not like a major part. On offense, it's I'm not saying groundbreaking, but it's like that, right? It's seismic. You're able to remind the quarterback not just of the play, but also the situation, and also the thought process, right? Like, hey, it's 3rd and 7 here. Coach said, hey, 3rd and 7, 2 downs. Take the check down if it's there. Which he understands gets us to 4th and 3. And we're not going to just do it on game day. We do it every day. So I won't be talking to the quarterbacks. I have the ability to, and I guess if I wanted to, I would. But we'll do it just like we did it in the NFL. Sat will talk to the quarterbacks. In practice, Glenn, Sat, and Garrett will all have them so they can work on it with all 3 teams. It's got to be enough information, but it can't be too much information. Mitch, I'm sorry.
In talking about some of those battles, to get on the 120 here this week, Last week after you left Indy, some of the settlement terms, were put more out there, and the 105 roster cap. I know we talked about it last week, but have you gotten any more information about how that number is going to work next year, and how does that impact potentially what you have to do now in looking at players for the next class, knowing that your roster is, no matter how it plays out, going to be smaller?
Yeah, what I've learned through this process, and really it kind of goes back to even like when the COVID restrictions were coming out, they were changing every day in college and in the NFL. What I've learned is not to react or take anything don't set things in stone until they're written out. They're put out. Like the limits were coming out. I was hearing 110, 105, 115, 110, 105. Like when it came out, I read it on Twitter, 105. So, that's kind of my mindset is like, hey, when it comes out, I'll react to it when it comes out. I'm thinking about it. What I'll have a responsibility to do is put the best, as I see it, 105 on the roster. And that's the one thing with all of this. Again, players are getting monetized, but not every player is going to get, so there's always a negative repercussion. There's a lot of guys that aren't going to be able to play college football at this level anymore because of this ruling. So when you do these things, someone gets paid, someone suffers. So, we'll have to put the best 105 guys out there. Now, I don't know yet, is that going to be, hey, you have 120 on your roster, but you have to get to 105 by the first game? I don't know if a guy like Demetrius Bell, who's out for the year, would he count in that 105? Would he not? I don't know that. Sometimes I think what they'll do, but these things have taken such twisting paths that I'm just kind of waiting till it's in writing.
With things like walk-on recruiting, how do you handle that now moving forward? Now that you can have technically 105 scholarship guys is kind of what they're saying with this new rule.
Yeah, I don't know that many schools. I mean, some will. I don't know that many schools will go to 105. At the end of the day, like to go put money here, you're taking money away from here, and those are really Troy decisions. Like I think only for football. Obviously, I think everyone knows I care about all the other sports, but there's other sports too. So I think one of the great things that we have here is that we have young men who love this university so much that they're going to pay their own way to come here. So I think we're going to have to just kind of wait and see. To be honest, we haven't offered a ton of preferred walk-ons until I know that. Because one thing I don't ever want to do is I'm going to have to make the right decision all the time or as best as I can. I don't mind disappointing people by telling them something that they don't want to hear if I think it's right. But I certainly don't want people to say, you told me this and then you did this. And so I'm not extending myself. Now, to Mitch's point, if there's a scholarship player out there that makes us better, then I'm recruiting. I'm not stopping recruiting. But the walk-on piece, I'm going to have to wait and see where that all falls out. Obviously, you look at our staff, most of us were walk-ons. We want there to still be a walk-on program, and I think we will.
At the risk of overcomplicating the discussion, is that in-helmet technology for a quarterback, is there any concern you have as a head coach that a coach is in the guy's ear a little too much? No, and only because I've done it before. Because I was in the NFL when we did it, and I just heard how it worked, and so because I guys like Ben McAdoo and Joe Brady that have done this, right? Like they knew it so well that I if it was me trying to figure it out, probably I'd be like, oh geez. And then again, that's a Lincoln company. So the first spring we were here, we would utilize it sometimes just because we thought this was going to happen, maybe even last year. So that's really two springs for us of having it in the quarterback's ear. So I thought the rhythm, the feel, the vibe, the energy in the spring was awesome.
Given the number of potential contributors at receiver and defensive back, and you made this comment last week that there's going to be some guys on some days who aren't going to be happy with the number of reps they get. How do you keep guys' spirits up while also understanding that at some point they're just going to sort themselves out and some guys are going to play more than others?
Yeah, I think we do the best to be fair, do the best to be equitable, but everything can't be equal. And as Tommy Hill said at our senior retreat, to be quite honest, it's time to win. There's no sympathy, you got to be fair, but this isn't, everyone had all summer, all spring opportunities to get here. Now, because we utilize the model of practice that we use, everyone's going to get reps. It's going to come down to the games, right? It's going to come down to the game reps. And even things like, you get done with practice, you get done with meetings, Sam, it's like 9 o'clock at night, man. You just want to go back to your room and play the game. You know what? You better go back and study your plays for the next day. Or even more importantly, you better get in the training room and make sure that hamstring that's tight, you know what? If you miss a couple days, it's not that you're going to fall out of the 2 deep, but all of a sudden that one slant and go that we love to run, Man, I tell you what, I gave Nayor a chance to run it because I was out for a day or two, and he runs it better than I do. Oh, so you better stay healthy. You better stay on the field. But this is what the NFL's like, right? You have a number one receiver, then everyone else is fighting for their lives. It's good that they learn this now. We'll do it with empathy. We'll do it with humility. We'll care them, walk them through it, but there won't be sympathy. The best players are going to get on the field and play.
Have you had to tell the players a year back how much they're playing the game?
No. Honestly, the things I worry about with our guys, like just as a coach, not our guys, just in general, worrying about 18 to 22-year-olds old, I worry, please don't do this, please don't do this, please don't do this. A video game doesn't fall into there very often, you know. The only person I've had to deal with on the video game is Rhule. I've had to call him when I've been out there and be like, if your mom tells you to do one more thing and you don't do it, he's helping out in training camp. I'm like, you're fired. You're going to be the first person fired. Put the game away. And I wouldn't let him bring the game. He's moving in the dorms. I would not let him bring the game here. You know what? When you play the game, and I'm sorry, whatever. So our guys are fine. Sorry. One more? Okay, we're good. Yeah.
Think of the SEC coaches saying $15 million on the revenue share with the players. Would you see that happening here?
Well, I think it's going to be across. I don't think it's going to be like each school picks. I think it's going to be kind of like, hey, this is at least conference-wise. I think the Big Ten is going to come out and say, hey, this is how we're doing it, and then it's going to happen. I don't think it's kind of like going back to the point we missed. Like I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that because like 2 weeks ago it was, hey, it's going to be this, and then all of a sudden now it's like, hey, I think it's going to be this. You know, there's lawyers. This isn't like this. There's lawyers deciding all this stuff. This isn't like, people on TV aren't deciding it. Administrators to an extent are, but behind every decision, there's another potential lawsuit coming. So it's lawyers deciding it. So people hear me say, I'm very, like you'll hear the staff come talk, I'm very involved in everything. I'm very involved in everything in the off season. When I get to today, like I'm worried about recruiting, I'm worrying about our players' lives, and I'm worrying about football. Everyone else has to run the rest of it. So Troy's amazing. He came into me today and gave me a little update on some of these things, right? And it's different than what it was a few weeks ago. The benefit of having Troy Dan in here is people are calling him to see what his thought process is. People are calling Troy to say, how do you think you're going to do this? So I'll wait till Troy tells me.
Was Bryant helping you out of camp?
What's that? I'm sorry?
Is Bryant helping you out of camp? Is he around here?
Yeah, he's out helping out. Yeah, he's helping out operations, right? So, Luke Foley, who's Ed Foley's son's out there helping out. Sarah works in the nutrition room. So, the most important thing I think you can do for young people is give them a job. So my son's doing it until he moves in the dorm, and then once he moves in the dorm to be a freshman, he's moved from Selleck over to Abel, and then we'll see if I can get him to do anything once he's a college student. So, all right, I'll see you guys at practice. Go Big Red.
We'll have each of them in about 10 minutes. Coach White and Coach Foley to follow, and then we'll move out to the field for players. So, how y'all doing?
Good.
Questions for staff?
Going through the spring and then maybe the off season with Glenn, I mean, what kind of conversation did you have about changes you'd like to make, and then how did you think that went implementing that?
Really not a lot of changes. I think it's just the mindset of how we're teaching the quarterback. I think, the reason that we hired Glenn is just we're very familiar with him and I know how he's going to teach the quarterback and the calmness he does it with. So really pleased, from the spring to this point where those guys are.
When you guys take Carter Nelson, Coach talked about last week in Indianapolis, and put him in the slot, is he really playing receiver, or is he playing like a position that you've made for him?
More of a position made for him. I think that, any step, whether you're playing 8-man football, 11-man football, when you go from high school to the Big Ten, that's a huge transition physically. So athletic and as, all the tools that he's been given, that he can use, we didn't want to slow his path to the field down by trying to, make him block a 6'5", 285 defensive end. We wanted him to do what he does best, which is run routes, get open, catch the ball, play in space. So we thought if we taught from the outside back to inside, it'll get him on the field a little bit quicker. So that's kind of the direction why we did that.
How optimistic are you that the second, third team guys could push the first team guys at wide receiver and offensive line compared to even a year ago where you?
That's amazing. The depth that we've last year when we were going through it, it was not a lot of fun when all those freshmen were having to play receiver. And I think the depth that we have now because of that is awesome. And it's a superpower for us because competition is everything in our program. So, I mean, you could go out there this week and be a 1 and look up next week and be a 3 if you're not performing at the standard that we're asking for. And I think the same with the O-line. We got some older guys that have played a lot of football there, but there's still just the depth that we have that we've developed in the last 2 years of I'm looking at Coach's coffee right here. I don't know, it got me distracted. The depth that we've developed there has been really good.
Coach, when you look at you obviously have some veteran receivers. You have some younger guys too. I mean, compared to having the veteran guys play well, how important is it that the younger guys continue to progress through camp before the season?
That's the cool thing is the veteran guys that we brought in, when we were recruiting those guys, Isaiah and Jamal, we talked to them about being big brothers, and I think they really embraced that role. And I think the younger receivers have not looked at them as, I'm not going to get on the field because we have older guys. They've looked at them as big brother types, and I think they've done a really nice job of mentoring the young guys and teaching them how to practice, teaching them how to work, teaching them how to be pros. And again, I think this is just going to play off each other because there's great competition in that room.
Rhule said in Indianapolis last week, a lot of it, the improvement on offense is about eliminating the bad. What's the key to eliminating giveaways on offense? How have you guys gone about that?
Obviously, we, the citizens of Nebraska, know you can't turn the ball over. And I think that you can talk about that, but I think once our guys globally, coaches, players, everything, look back and know like how different the season could have been last year if we just hold on to the football and don't turn the ball over. I think they know how critical that is. And I think that there's, starting last spring, just the emphasis of taking care of the football. Like if we have to just take a knee 3 times and punt the ball, but we don't turn it over, we'll do that, right? We're not going to turn the ball over anymore. And they know if you turn the ball over, you're not going to play. And I think just talking about the depth that we've developed on offense, we're at a point now where if you do turn the ball over, you're coming out of the game. And, whether you get out there or not again that's yet to be seen.
What expectations do you have for Dylan, not just in camp but this season?
All 3 quarterbacks. I haven't really seen them. Coach really made us get away this year in the summer and let the players kind of take over. So last time I saw those guys in June, they had taken another step since the spring from throwing the football. It was an emphasis for us going into spring ball was throwing the football. They had a good June, and then I'm anxious just to get back this week and see where they are. I've obviously heard people talking about, all those guys are developing, and Danny and Heinrich and Dylan, all 3 of them have great summers. Great last 3 weeks, especially.
Mentally with Dylan, how far ahead is he maybe compared to some other true freshman quarterbacks you've dealt with over your career?
I think it's his work ethic, the way he attacks it. He'll stay up all night just rewriting notes and rewriting plays just to make sure he can call them, in the proper cadence and the proper rhythm. I think that he's just obsessed with trying to be really, really, really good, and I think that shows in his. In the development thus far since he's been here since January, and just anxious to see what it's going to look like this week. All 3 of those dudes.
Well, we were talking with Rick Neuheisel at Big Ten Media Day. He was talking about how incoming freshman quarterbacks may be a little bit more advanced and developed because of the gurus and the high school training. Do you see the same thing? That guys are more ready?
Yeah, I think it's just sped up a lot. I mean, back in the day, you were a quarterback, you played baseball, basketball, you did everything. I think now it's just so, especially the high-end quarterbacks, they've played quarterback now for 6 or 7 years, and that's all they've done. And they've prepared, and they've learned how to prepare. They've learned how to, watch film at an early age. The offenses, going back down into the high school level are so advanced now. I think that by the time they get on campus here, mentally they're at a higher rate than they were when, 10 years ago. It's just the physical component, like how fast can they physically get ready to get out there and perform.
What are you looking for at running back to, You have three guys who have started to separate someone from the other. What do you want to see there?
Again, competition. I want to see who goes out there, takes care of the ball, can make guys miss, knows their pass protections, can catch the ball in the backfield. It'd be great if we had, we have guys that are productive in all three of those phases. But obviously, if there's one that, we can play with three guys. Don't really want to play with three guys. We want to get guys in there and let them roll and get in the rhythm of the game. But we're at a really good spot, just like at wide receiver, just to go out there and you may be the starter this week, but you better compete. You better live up to the standard, or you won't be that way, week 2. So it'll be exciting to watch.
Did you see Emmett walk taller, this offseason after what he was able to get done last year?
I think that was huge for him to get to play those games and to have, with those two being out in the spring, getting all those reps in the spring. So I think that he's confident just because of the amount of football that he's played, which will, allow him to hopefully be very productive this year.
Marcus, what do you guys see out of Ramir Johnson? What does he bring to this team? You guys only got 3 games with him last year before his injury.
Super athletic, smart, high football IQ, understands pass protection, obviously, catches the ball very well out of the backfield, can make people miss. Wish we'd had him the whole year, but again, helped him, develop as getting to play. But looking forward to Raheem being out there and seeing what he can do.
Marcus, with the quarterbacks on the headset this season, how do you kind of see yourself handling that? You feel pretty prepared for handling college kids in game like that?
It's amazing. I've listened to so many interviews of how many coaches and how many teams haven't even used it yet. And I think Coach pushed us to make sure that we were going to be the best that we could possibly be at using the headset and using the iPads during the game. We did those in every single scrimmage. I think it's great. I think we have to be really, really careful to not say too much. I can't imagine being out there in a Big Ten game trying to play quarterback and us talking to you. You just can't do that. You need to give him the proper information in a sequence of ways that, it gives him rhythm where he can call the plays. And then, obviously, before 15 seconds, if there's things that we need to get to him, we can. But I'm going to try to not talk too much. Just front load it early, like A, B, C, D, E. All right, let's go, baby. Here we go. And then if there's something that pops, obviously we'll tell him. But I don't want to be talking the whole time.
Tailor that to your starter too, and just sort of what they're
and again, each guy is different. Like just how you talk to him, I think it's critical. It's critical. The fact that we were able to get such a head start on it and do it all spring was huge.
What kind of a jump do you envision for Thomas Fidone this year?
I don't want to ever put any. I'm really pleased with where he is. I mean, he's put weight on. He's running really well. He's changed directions really well. Ball skills are improving. He's had a really, really, really good summer. And I love the fact he's obsessed with being the best version of himself. And I think he works towards that, and he has a standard every day, and he lives up to it. And really excited to see, how far he can take it this year, because we're definitely going to need him to produce for us, and we're going to put him in a position to do so.
In your collegiate coaching career, how many offensive lines have you had that has the potential and experience this one does?
Never this depth and experience. I mean, it's a good problem to have.
What do you think that can bear out for your skill players, many of whom are still pretty young?
Say that again now.
How can it help your skill players, whether it's quarterback or receiver or running back?
The O-line?
Yeah.
I think it's huge just to have pass protection. I think sometimes O-lines get, they get a bad rap for sacks, and it has nothing to even do with what they were doing. It had something to do with the quarterback's depth, the quarterback not getting rid of the ball, the receivers not running the proper routes, things like that. So I think just their ability to pass protect and their comfort in our system in year 2 is going to allow them to protect the quarterback and to block and create seams for the running backs, which bleeds out through the entire team for success. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, dang.
Okay. G-Man, good to see you, bro. Great to see you.
How'd you challenge yourself, not only in the spring, but in the offseason to get better as a coordinator after having a really good year, and your defense getting better after having a really good statistical year?
Yeah, a lot of it comes back to, who you're around. And the one thing that Coach Rhule does is he's always looking for an advantage. So going back and looking at the things that we need to work on was first and foremost, like taking the ball away, being better on third downs, getting some guys matched up better in the secondary. But also, I was fortunate to be around some really good defensive coaches as well. And they every year it's a new team, it's a new attitude. So you go into it like the first year, you know what I mean? And so the very first message yesterday we got together as a D staff was, this group hasn't done anything. I haven't done anything. I'm gonna approach it like that. We're gonna move forward that way, and we got a lot to prove, and put that chip on our shoulder and let's roll.
Obviously, John Butler has a really good resume, but besides that, when you talk through it with him, what made it feel like this fits really well?
Yeah, he's again, his energy. When you see him, he's an old school Philly guy. So you're looking at him and you don't know how he's going to come across, and all of a sudden he sits down with you and it's like bam, 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 bam. Don't stop me. Let me go. So he's really what the guys need right now. In terms of energy, in terms of that fire. And then you sit down and you listen to him talk, and then you can see all of his experience come out, all the different techniques, all the things he had to do in the league, and the people he was around. And so I think Coach Rhule, we during the summer break when all this stuff happened, we had gone through and had a list of guys, and we're talking to different guys, and then he brought the name up, and it was like, let's talk with him and all that stuff. And then immediately after talking to him the first time, I was like, Coach, he might be the dude, advancing the football, keeping the guys on the same path of the NFL development, making sure that they're ready for the next level, and then keeping the standards high. So it was refreshing to be around him so far.
How much of a challenge has it been for you since July 6th to get him ready? I mean, what kind of challenge is that? You had 25 days or whatever.
Yeah, everybody's different. And the one thing that he said, good coaches are good teachers. You know what I mean? So they're able to absorb information, and then they're able to put it in different buckets, and then be able to get their guys to play. And so the first thing you know about John is when we were talking defense, he was just putting it in buckets. And again, that goes back to the experience. Oh, it's just like this, no problem. It's just like this. It's just like this. So really made us all feel comfortable about the way he's going to teach, and really it just comes down to terminology. This is how we say it here. This is how he was used to saying it. And one of the first things he did was say, hey, instead of having 30 plus guys, 40 plus guys learn his wording and how he used to say things, like, I need to learn the way we do it here. And so again, you got a guy who knows a lot, but he's humble to the point of like, hey, let me see, let me hear, let me do how we do things here, how we can advance the guys here and roll. So it's it's really neat to be around him, his thoughts, but he's always keeping it of how we do things here.
Hey, Tony, you guys added Sierra Wright late. Obviously a guy with a lot of experience. Mm-hmm. Where's he at, kind of just from what you've seen or heard early on, and how do you bring him along?
Yeah, extremely talented. I mean, you watch him just naturally, and you can see why he was one of the top recruits in the country, period. He's very athletic, very fluid in his hips. He's pretty smart as well. So again, it's just, you're trained a certain way at a different institution, and then you come over here and you realize things are vastly different. The standards are just different, and the way we do things on defense are just different than the way he was used to doing things. So that's our responsibility to make sure that he understands that he's always held to that standard, and that he's putting it on the grass. Again, a lot of guys talk about it, but it's hard to not be a man of action when you're around Corey, when you're around Kristen, when you're around, especially now Coach Butler, myself, all the guys in the locker room, GIF. So he's a guy who we're counting on to make sure he knows what to do, how to do it, and then let him go and compete.
The moment is past, but I know it's early, but how have you seen John interact with the guys at all, if at all?
Butler?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, same way. I mean, again, he's had a couple sit downs and with the guys in terms of the DBs, and his knowledge comes across right away, and so the guys know that he knows what he's talking about. So I think right now it's more so they know him football wise. They know the X's and O's. They've seen the resume. Now it's more so building that chemistry with them. Just off the grass. Doing things like that, being around him so he knows. So things become instinctual. So that's what fall camp is for, right? I mean, I haven't checked into my dorm room yet, but coach is having us check in, and we are around the guys. And he the first thing he said was, "Hey, we're sleeping in the dorm, so no sneaking off anywhere, no nothing. We're held to the same standards as a player." So, but that's all for us being around the guys, so that way they know we're all in it as well.
Do you have your own room, or do you have to bunk up?
Nah, bro. Not coordinated. I got my own room so far. So there's 2 beds in there. So I don't know if T Knight took the other one. So we'll see. But don't jinx me now like that. Don't jinx me.
You get the upgrade to like the RA suite or something?
Nah, bro. Nah, I got the 2 wooden beds. I'm gonna take a picture. I'm gonna. It might be the same room as last year. So I don't know. I haven't checked in yet. So.
You have a roommate last year?
No, I did not. Luckily, but. This is a new year, and I ain't done nothing, so who knows?
Hey, Coach Rhule talked about how important it was in the spring for guys like Gifford and Ty, some of your leaders, to not be in playing every down so you could build depth and whatever, but not just that, but to have the guys kind of think like coaches.
Yep.
How will that help in that development and to be a more player-led defense?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's all perspective, right? More perspective that you have, then you understand why people say things, why people believe things. So it was great to see, because Coach actually, in the spring, when things were happening, he had all those older guys. He had most of them together. And so he would go to them when a situation happened, and he'd be like, "Hey, did you see why we did this? Did you see why the call here? This is why we want to do this." So you see the guys actively coaching the guys. So that kind of thing, again, chemistry in terms of FBI, football intelligence on the field, in terms of game situations, all that stuff is invaluable when especially coming from the head man. You know what I mean? Like he pulls all those guys aside and is coaching them, giving them knowledge of the game and all that stuff. Like you can't replicate that any other way. So them being around, being able to help the younger guys, because if you look at all the positions, you got this group that have played and has experience, and then you got a group that, I mean, they just showed up. You know what I mean? So we're gonna need some help from the players. Coaching the other players when our eyes are out there when they're not in. So, but that's the kind of culture you want, right? Players being coaches themselves. So.
In your collegiate coaching career, have you ever had a defensive line with this much seasoning and experience?
No, I mean, you got a lot of playmakers up there. You got a lot of snaps under their belt. I think it helped last year, especially throwing all those guys in there, seeing what they can do, them running with it. And I mean, guys coming up out of the blue, like Prince Will and Cam, and then Riley Pop coming up, and then James Williams coming out of nowhere, and those guys getting valuable reps and playing ball and stuff. So it's a good problem to have, right? I mean, you always got problems. You got guys who ain't played, or you got too many guys who play, and this is a good problem to have, especially with the way things are set up now, and being able to play those extra games later on. I think taking snaps off the big guys are going to pay dividends later on.
I know we look at every player and want to see them develop, right? But there does seem to be something about Prince Will, his potential as a pass rusher. Right? What does he have to do to take the next step as a player in this year and in subsequent?
Yep, he has to be consistent. He has to show up every day. He has to take care of his body. He's got to put it on the grass. Again, when you talk about flashes, that means that you've seen what he can do. Now, again, year 2, expectations are higher, standards are raised. So now it's time to be consistently that guy versus saying, hey, here and there you see it, and then all of a sudden, you kind of don't hear it anymore. And he's that type of guy. I mean, he's a next level player. I mean, he's big, he's tall, he's fast, he's explosive, he's twitchy. And so now you got to put the knowledge behind it, and you got to put the attitude behind it, and you got a guy who can go out there and make plays. So.
All right.
Appreciate everybody.
the field for players. First group will be 2 O linemen, 2 D linemen, and then we'll have some offensive guys and some defensive guys after that. So.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Hello.
How we doing?
Hey, Coach. Coach Rhule talked about Tristan's injury.
Yep.
I guess what's your level of concern about that heading into camp, and kind of analyze where your kicker position's at right now?
I'm good. I watched him kick the other day on Monday. It was a rehab thing, so I just was watching from afar just to see, you know, what it looked like and what his reaction was. And I got him coming off the field. I was kind of, you know, looking at it and just more from an evaluation standpoint. And he was fine. Like he's kicking. He's just not at the point where he's going to kick off right now, you know, in terms of that kind of push. So as of right now, I'm not overly concerned.
Is that just a wear and tear injury? Did something happen?
Yeah, it's pretty much so. He you know, the guys when they get into the situation where they're kicking, and we've dealt with this with the Carolina Panthers a couple of times. You know, there's this kind of groin up and I'm not a medical person, but I just know that it wears. It's not something where it's like a dynamic injury. It's just something like, you know, if you're kicking year round at the quantity that we're kicking, sometimes they get a little bit worn out. Sometimes they never do. It's just one of those things that you know, he came out of the spring okay, and then he was kicking on his own, and he came back in one day and he was like, this doesn't feel right. And, you know, we were kind of working through it, and then, you know, they did something. I don't know. Again, I'm not a doctor. It's not a major thing right now. It's just something that we've got to work through. The timing of it was actually good. I mean, obviously I'd like him to be kicking right now, but like if he had done that and he had come into the training room this week or next week or last week, it would be way more of a concern. You know, it's something that we've been dealing with and you know, working on since early June.
And the change this year that allows more coaches to work with players in practice and games, how can that impact special teams to have additional coaches, whether they're analysts or whatever, quality control, who are now out there on the field and able to help you do the things you want to do in that aspect?
It's a big help for me, especially because, you know, I like to segment what we're doing. It really helps a lot in meetings as much as it does on the field. So, like, and I was segmenting that anyway, but like you imagine in this day and age with the attention that these kids have, like, I'm trying to coach all 11 in a meeting or on the field. It just doesn't work. So to be able to separate those guys and have guys that can coach. So, you know, Garrett, for example, was taking the gunners over to another field, and he was working specifically with the gunners, the wide guys on the punt team, while I was working with the interior part of the unit. Now he can get help over there. So we can get some young coaches over there. You know, like Rashawn Melvin was a gunner for me in Carolina. To have him over there to be able to coach those guys over there on the gunner field is invaluable experience and teaching that can go on now for us to coach that at a higher level. Just using that as an example, and that example is across the board. So to have other guys that can coach those positions specifically, you know, is really important. I'm going to try to operate this year as these rules come forward, and as I'm, you know, learning more as I'm, you know, over the years. I want to do it a little bit more like the offense and defense has done it. And we're transitioning from this like punt team out there, you know, running against the scout punt return team to now individualized drill work and individualized positions. You know, we're going to go through tomorrow and start with separation where, you know, one of the coaches who couldn't coach before, Josh Martin, is going to have the shield. And then, you know, G will still have the gunners, but he'll have help over there. And then I'll have the interior with me, and having guys like, you know, Josh and Jack to be able to help coach the interior. Now we can work in stations here, have the shield here, have the gunners over there, and they're all getting a high level of coaching. I'm really excited about that. And I wanted to do more of that last year, but you're restricted by the coaching thing. But now it's going to really be something that we can take advantage of. I'm excited about it. Very excited about it.
I know it's fluid throughout camp, but who are some names as return men options that you'll trot out there the first?
You know, it's too early for me to like say, but I can tell you that there's some young guys that have come around and have done it like throughout the spring. This is kind of the development part of it. You know, where we saw some things in the spring, and now we add some more stuff to it here in the preseason and see, how they can react. Like, I'm not going to, just stand up like what Ja'Cory did in the spring game was like, that's the real deal. I mean, that's a really big time cut. It's good vision. It's got speed. He's running down the field with enough speed. So that's exciting. But now day in and day out, how's the decision, how are the decisions with somebody like that? But there's a few guys that are in that situation. I can tell you also that, IGC as a punt returner, really had a great spring for us and kind of emerged as a guy that I'm really confident that the coaches are really confident. Coach Brown's doing a great job of coaching those guys specifically. And again, another product of having somebody being able to go out there and coach them is going to be like really good for them. So like that part of it, he's a guy that I think it would be a guy that I could mention at this point on the punt return game, but there's some other guys that are out there. But I feel really good about the return game. There's some guys out there that have some experience, and there's some guys that are young that have some good skills.
Coach Camden Cook in the program. Has Sam Cook been around much, or have you been able to talk to him?
I was able to talk to Sam before Camden, and since Camden, it's been good. Yes, I mean he's more of a guy that's like just somebody that I can call, just to say, hey, whatever. This is what I'm seeing, and what do you think, and that kind of stuff. Just kind of a sounding board. But yes, I mean, he's been I will say this, that him and the guys that have kicked and punted at Nebraska have been a tremendous resource, just as sounding boards, and guys that have been around, and guys that I can share, kind of like and talk to them and just say, this is what I'm seeing, or what issues did you have with this, and so like that's been really good for us.
Coach Rhule has said in the offseason numerous times that the weather and the wind really kind of surprised him last year. I mean, how much did it affect you and your guys, and how much do you appreciate that Rhule, especially in the cold weather months, wants to go outside and practice in the elements?
Yeah, that's great. And I want to, I will take the guys. I'll take the guys. The guys want to be in the stadium, as much as possible. So to be working for, a guy like Coach Rhule, he's always been like, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? So we go into the stadium even when we're practicing out over here. So it allows us to get our work out there. Last year was great. We practiced every Wednesday night in the stadium. So we were getting some night work and we were getting some stadium work built in. But even if we don't have that, the ability to go in there, I think it's an advantage for us knowing what the wind conditions are here. We've always we've dealt with the wind. I've dealt with the wind probably more, to a greater extent than a lot of the other coaches, just because of the kick game part of it. But to be able to go in there and do that, and now to have the kind of the knowledge of what the stadium is about here, and kind of what the trends are with how the wind is. It's going to help us moving forward, just coming up with a game plan to do the best we can with that.
What kind of an offseason has Buschini had, at least from what you've gathered?
Brian, when we go back and look at the practice film, as we look at how he's advanced, what he's done with his body is striking. Like he is, we've gone back and forth with the body weight, but the body weight isn't really the issue. It's really kind of how he's kind of grown into this weightlifting, and Corey's done a great job with him. The strength guys have done a great job with him. So he's really a different kind of body athlete than he was when I first got here. So that's the most striking thing, is how he's kind of trimmed down, but he's more explosive and he's stronger. So that part of it has been really good. And then he's a pro. So he goes out there, and even when I was on vacation over the course of July, I'm getting the clips, and we're having discussions about things that he's working on. Hey, coach, today I'm going to work specifically on this and this and this. So he's at the point where, we're fine tuning certain things that we're going to try to do better this year. And he's been great to work with. He's had, I think, I thought he had a good spring. I think he's having a really good summer, and I'm expecting him to have a really good year for us.
You'll have to replace Marco.
Yes.
Just how tough has that adjustment been, and what can you learn from the spring and carry it over into fall?
Well, the great thing from losing Marco is having Camden as his backup, and having those guys work together for the year, and then working under our system for a year. Camden, Marco had the preparation of being able to work and play as a college player at the University of Florida, so he had some experience. Camden doesn't have that game experience, but now he has the experience of working for multiple years, in the system here and then with us last year. So I feel really good about Camden. He's another guy that's like, a pro, and Marco comes back here and trains still. So Marco's training here, and they're getting work together beyond just what he's doing in the weight room. So I feel really good about Camden. I really do. Camden he's a different kind of skill set than Marco. He's a little bit more compact. He's gained, he's gained about 11 pounds since the beginning of this calendar year of good weight. He's explosive. He can run. I think he's going to, I don't think we're going to be, I'm not concerned about us, short of him not having the game experience, which is obviously effective, but I've seen him snap so many times and do so many things at such a high level that I feel really good about him.
Coach Rhule said his son's going to be in training camp. Is your son doing the same thing? And what's that going to do?
We got a family affair with the Foleys here now. So I got a son in equipment, and I got a son in operations, and then I got my daughter wants to come down here and work with. She's in love with the nutrition staff here, so she comes in and makes shakes in the morning. So I don't know if they're working or if they're just coming to hang out, and then they're whatever. There's a body over there. Get over here. It's there's work to be done. So you'll see my guys will be out there. A lot of the coaches' kids will be out there running around. And it's one of the great with Coach Rhule for a long time, and one of the great things is he wants the kids around. He understands the time. The time commitment on our end, and he allows our kids to be in here, and that's one of the reasons that we've been together for so long. We have just our great Brian and Luke play golf. I started playing golf with them on Sunday, and then I was like, all right, it's my day off. I'm getting frustrated. I'm going to leave. You guys keep going. And they played 18. I played about 8.5. But yeah, so, but like my son was like, well, what do you, we had two, and then Brian came in. So then my nephew's here, so he's a student here. So yeah, we got all kinds of things rolling around here with these guys. Keeps us on our toes.
All right. Thanks, guys. Play.
Thank you, guys. Firethorn.
Firethorn tonight.
Thanks, guys.